Hi everyone, Scott with Dearly Departed Tours. This story, The Murder of Danny Lockin, comes from the archives of my website, findadeath.com. It was contributed by my friend Mark Langlois. So between the two of us, we put together this narration, and I think you'll find it pretty interesting. Daniel Joseph Lockin was an actor, singer, and dancer who appeared on Broadway and most famously as Barnaby Tucker in the 1969 film Hello Dolly with Barbra Streisand. Because of, and despite of, his savage murder in 1977 at the age of 34, he is almost completely forgotten. Danny was raised in Omaha, Nebraska, and was the only child of Joseph and Jean Lockin. Jean opened a successful dance studio in Omaha, and Danny spent most of his childhood at the studio and danced so well that his mother wasted no time in steering her son to be a professional performer. In 1959, the Lockins moved into their new home in Anaheim, California, about 35 miles south of Hollywood. Danny attended the Rancho Alamitos High School in Garden Grove, where he excelled in academics, theater arts, and gymnastics. After his father died in summer of '61, Jean worked at her busy dance studio in Anaheim, and Danny landed a few small parts on television shows like Dr. Kildare, Father of the Bride, and My Three Sons. He even did a Head & Shoulders shampoo commercial. The 17-year-old Danny, with his 5'6" small frame, red hair, and freckles, could, and usually did, play roles younger than his age. After high school graduation, like his mother before him, he tried his luck in New York City. In 1966, he got the role of Barnaby in the traveling production of Hello Dolly, where he played opposite several Dollys, including Betty Grable, Ginger Rogers, Dorothy Lamour, and Eve Arden. In 1967, it was announced that 25-year-old Barbra Streisand would play the 1890s widowed matchmaker Dolly Levi in the film version of Hello Dolly. Danny Lockin was offered the role of Barnaby in the film version of Hello Dolly after 13 tests for MGM legend turned film director Gene Kelly.
134, take one.
Yes, New York. It's really us, Barnaby and Cornelius. All the guests of Mr. Hackle are feeling great and look spectacular.
Danny was on top of the world, and that year married chorus line dancer Kathy Haas. The couple moved from New York to Los Angeles for Danny's 6-month rehearsal shooting schedule, and Kathy became pregnant during the 1968 film shoot, which began on April 15, 1968, Stage 16, Fox Studios on Pico Boulevard. The budget for the film rose to $25 million, with $2 million spent to recreate 1890s Manhattan on the Fox lot. Barbara's beaded gold gown, which weighed 40 pounds, cost $8,000, and the Harmonia Gardens set cost $375,000. A bit of trivia, you can see the fountain from the film at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. The scenery piece was moved there shortly after the shooting wrapped. By the time Hello Dolly finally premiered in December of 1969, some things had changed. Barbara's film Funny Girl made her a superstar and earned her an Academy Award. Danny Lockin's marriage was over, his wife having left him that previous summer, filing for divorce, and taking their 6-month-old child with her. Danny was reportedly devastated, but had to keep smiling and performing on Broadway, where he was back playing Barnaby opposite the final stage Dollys, Phyllis Diller and Ethel Merman. When the Broadway show closed, he once again took the role for roadshow productions of Hello Dolly into the early 1970s. With a monotonous touring life on the road and no other career prospects appearing, Danny began drinking more and doing cocaine. His drug use began affecting his show business reputation. He was age 31 in 1974 when he moved back to California and into his mother's Anaheim home and began working as assistant manager and teacher at the Gene Lockin Dance Studio. By 1977, his mother's dance studio had closed and Danny was working at another Orange County studio. He was now out as bisexual and was no longer the twinkly-eyed dancer with a hot career. He'd become a heavy drinker with DUI arrests and had to beg friends and his mother for transportation to go anywhere. Sunday, August 21, 1977, began as an exciting and happy day for Danny. He and his friend and fellow dance instructor, Billy Joe Conway, were booked to appear on the hit television program The Gong Show. Their song and dance act was fun and visually quirky, as Billy Joe weighed 230 pounds, but they were planning to pull out all their best tap moves. His mother, Jean, drove him up to Burbank for the taping, which was to be aired primetime on September 14th. His mother told reporters, quote, "It was a good night for him. He had the old light in his eyes." The pair performed well and owned the stage with their "There'll Be Some Changes Made" song and dance routine. They were given 10s across the board from celebrity judges, including one from J.P. Morgan, who cattily joked that Billy Joe looked like current male singer Paul Williams. Danny and Billy Joe tied with another act for first place and danced amongst the confetti. Jean said that afterward they celebrated with dinner and a martini. Then her son asked her to drop him off at The Mug, a gay bar in Garden Grove, so he could unwind and play the pinball machine. Danny was wearing skin-tight pants with no pockets to carry ID when she dropped him off at 11 p.m. and he told her he had $5 for a taxi to get home. That was the last time Jean saw her son alive. Jean later told the press that she'd heard Danny called a taxi around midnight from The Mug, but that, quote, "he didn't take it. Someone had offered him a ride. It doesn't make much sense to me that he would leave with someone he didn't know." Of note, Danny had earned the reputation of being very difficult and was described as a live wire and unruly when drinking. Regulars at the bar said Danny was quick to take offense at everything. He could be polite one minute and belligerent the next. The man who offered Danny the ride was another regular at the Mug named Charles Chuck Hopkins, a 34-year-old Air Force veteran and medical dispatcher for UCI Medical Center and a, quote, known homosexual, according to detectives. The pair ended up at Hopkins' place at the Kona Palms Apartments in Anaheim. Inside the apartment, there was S&M gear, porn, poetry books, a portrait of Sophia Loren on the wall, and a Judy Collins album ready to spin. Now, according to the police report, the apartment was managed by, quote, admitted homosexual Dennis Reeves and would rent to, quote, other gays. Several hours later, Chuck Hopkins phoned the police and told them that an intruder had tried to rob him. Upon arrival, Danny Lockin was found stabbed to death. But not just that. He'd been stabbed more than 100 times. A majority of the wounds were 3 inches deep, and 9 of the wounds were potentially fatal. Now this is graphic. 12 of the wounds were on the left side of his back. 2 of them were post-mortem, meaning it happened after he was already dead. The coroner can tell it happened after he died because his heart had stopped beating and his blood stopped flowing. The right side of his back shows 16 stab wounds, 7 post-mortem. 12 to his right side, 5 post-mortem. 17 wounds on his left buttock, all post-mortem. 26 to the right buttock, all post-mortem. There were several more, some defense wounds. You get the idea. Newspapers surmised that if there was any noise coming from that apartment overlooking the pool, there was no one in the immediate vicinity to hear it. Apartment 9, directly across from Hopkins' door, was vacant, and tenants alongside his rooms in Apartment 11 were gone. and there was no one underneath because it was over a garage. Hopkins was arrested immediately. It took 2 days for investigators to identify his body. On Tuesday, August 23rd, Mrs. Lockin finally received the call that she dreaded. They'd identified her son using fingerprints on file from his drunk driving arrests. Danny Lockin's official cause of death, exsanguination, multiple stab wounds to the heart and lungs. While detectives were in the apartment, they found a book of hardcore photographs representing male-on-male sex torture. The prosecution planned to use this evidence to demonstrate Hopkins' premeditation and playbook of intent. Well, the photographs could not be used because police had not obtained it using the proper search warrants. Hopkins pleaded innocent to his charge of first-degree murder by torture and mayhem, and after a delayed 1978 trial, was eventually given a 4-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter, which most people consider a travesty of justice. An interview with a family friend stated about Danny, "The police came to his mother's house and went over his room looking for sex toys, S&M instruments, but there was no evidence of that. He wasn't into anything kinky. He was just a good old-fashioned American bisexual. He had worked hard since he was 8 playing clubs, fairs, television shows, and the stage, but he became very temperamental. His temper, his demand for perfection, and drink did him in as far as show business is concerned. He fought hard, and maybe he would have made it again if he'd had lived. Danny was many people. He was very complex and very talented. He tried to go his own way. That's showbiz." Danny is buried in Westminster Memorial Park in Orange County. Section 219, Block 29, Grave 4. The simple stone reads, "Beloved Son." Danny's mother continued to teach dance until she suffered a series of strokes in the late 1980s. She passed away on May 23, 1990. Killer Hopkins got lung cancer and died of a heart attack on the 29th of November, 2006. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you wouldn't mind liking or subscribing, I'd sure appreciate that too. But I especially appreciate the people who are sponsoring my page. You could too by hitting the link below for Patreon or PayPal. But today I want to thank Jolene. I want to thank Esme. You are so very supportive. Kathleen Williams, Jody Falk, Karen Huntley, Neil Robertson, and Veronica Arquette. Seriously, thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. And until next time. You heard me.